Hi, this is Jim. Thank you for coming to my channel today. Very much appreciated. Today we're going to talk about how to grow your service business. And one of the ways to do it is by keeping promises. And I know that sounds insignificant and all, and I know that you may not think that's important, but it really is important. My background, I ran an IT company, installation company, and I ran it for about 28, 30 years, and was very successful with it. Always in the black, always paid all my bills. Always made a profit in that business. Sold it a couple years back to a competitor. And so now I do CableSupply.com, and I do these YouTube videos, things like that. But today I was dealing with a customer service rep. Moved from, no, actually didn't move, we're in the process of moving from California, moving my other businesses here. And I bought this house here in California. Great deal, by the way. Well built, everything else, nice company. To deal with. They're really busy because everybody's moving from California and New York. But this is a nice house, everything else. But I got a customer service rep. So they gave me the customer service rep's name and card and everything else. And I had a little bit of a hard time getting a hold of them because I have some issues, small issues, maybe a little bigger than small. But you know, anytime you had a new business, I mean a new office, new real estate, you're always going to have these type of issues. It's not a big deal. It has to be taken care of. And they did not argue with me about taking care of them. They just said, we'll schedule them out. So I told him that I would be here for 2 weeks in California. 2 weeks here in Texas. And we talked about the fact that I needed some things done, and he said, no problem. He met with me as soon as I got out here. Actually, I had to text him about 3 times before he responded. But when he met with me, I walked him through the problems we had. He wrote them down. And he said, okay, I'll have the people here first thing Monday morning take care of all these issues. I said, fantastic, that'd be great. Now, I didn't know why he could commit to something like that since he's not the person who does scheduling for all his subcontractors. And this was like a Thursday. Today's Monday, it was Thursday last week. And he said, I'll be there, I'll have them all here first thing in the morning on Monday. Absolutely, fantastic. I tried to get a hold of him on Friday to confirm that we were still on for Monday. Could not get a hold of him, could not hear anything from him. Things like that. Monday morning, I show up right here, and I'm drinking my coffee. I'm drinking my coffee, waiting for him, waiting for the subcontractors. Even up the front door. So in case they show up and I can't find the door button, the doorbell, they could see me sitting here, and I don't want them to walk away and say, well, he wasn't there, too busy. So 8 o'clock came, and nobody showed up. 9 o'clock came, no one showed up. 10 o'clock, no one showed up. I started texting him, started calling him, things like that. Finally, I heard back in a text that said, oh, well, they can't come today. They're going to come next week. And I said, I'm only going to be here this week. There's no next week. I'm only here. I was here all week, all last week. Now I'm here all this week. You promised this stuff was going to be done on Monday. I had a lot of things to do to get ready to do more investments in Texas. And I scheduled my day off today so I could address these issues that you said the subcontractor was going to come by. Now, I didn't say that to him because, frankly, that text would be forever. But I did text them back and say, no, this is not acceptable. I need these subs here to do their work, and I need it done as soon as possible. And I took the day off. Well, they didn't show up. What can I tell you? And he's hard to get a hold of. And so I've learned the lesson that he's not a professional. And if I want anything done, I'm going to have to text him 2 or 3 times every single day to make sure that the thing gets done. I cannot assume that if he says it's going to be done on Monday, it's going to actually happen. But I want to point that out, that my opinion of the whole company went like this. It just dived. Not because of the quality of the house. It's a nice quality house, and it's brand new. As you notice, there's no furniture back there. I'm still not moved in. Don't plan to actually live here yet. I plan to use this as my jumping off point. But to make a long story short, my opinion of his company he works for went downhill really fast because a promise made was not a promise kept. So the point I want to point out to you is never make a promise as a business owner that you can't keep, or that you don't know you can keep. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. I see a lot of salesmen sometimes are so anxious for the sale that they'll promise anything. And that way you may end up with the customer one time, but you're not going to end up with the customer twice. And it costs a lot of money to get a customer as a lot of advertisement, a lot of work, a lot of time on the phone, things like that. And to promise something you can't do or couldn't fulfill, it not only causes problems where you lose credibility, people start to think that you're not a person of integrity, and they start questioning everything else you do. And on top of that, if it breaks the contract, then of course you can get sued. So never make a promise that you can't keep. I worked for AmeriQuest Mortgage, which was a company that was around years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I did over 600 installations for them throughout the United States. But sometimes when had a local, and I had over 200 subcontractors. But when I had over 200, I think, I don't know, I don't count them. But when I had to do work here, or not here, but in Southern California, they would call me into their corporate headquarters, and they would have, and I was not a sub, I was an independent contractor. I did not work for the general contractor. Like, general contractor will hire plumbers and electricians and drywall people and stuff like that. I did not work for the general contractor. I worked directly for the company, and so whatever the company told me to do, I'd just say yes sir, and I'd go do them, and they always paid on time, so that was great. But anyway, the general contractor would be there, and they would have all the charts and all the diagrams and how long everything was going to take and everything else. And I remember Ameriquest Mortgage saying, and this happened more than once, by the way, this was a handful of times, we went through the same routine. The head of Ameriquest Mortgage that was responsible for this type of construction would say, now give me your word, you're going to be done by June 1st. And the person would always say, yes, it'll be done by June 1st, positive, this is an easy job, we'll have this done ahead of time. And then they'd look at me and they would say, hey, low voltage guy, when's your cabling going to be done, when's the phone system going to be in, when are you going to hook up the computers? And I would say, general contractor, when are you going to have the drop ceiling in? When are you going to have the drywall up? As soon as you have those two things in, I can come in and get this done in a certain time period. And the general contractor would say, well, let's say if it has to be open by June, I'll be ready by May. And I'd say, okay, absolutely, May. I'll have it done. I'll be in there in May, and I will have it done, and you'll have it done by June. And afterwards, me and some of my managers would walk out, and they would look at me, and they'd say, we're all ready. I'd say, okay, just order the parts, make sure we have everything, stage it, make sure it's there. They get it done exactly like they want it done. And they would say, absolutely. But I'd say, don't plan on it happening before June. And they'd say, why? I said, because these guys always promise something they never keep. And sure enough, every single time it would be, an additional 2 or 3 months more before we could even get in there to do our job. So I've learned a lesson that there's a lot of contractors that cannot be trusted with their time frame. They just want the money. A lot of contractors, that's all they want is the money, man. And once they get the money, they're done. And your project gets put on the back burner for them because they got you. They got your deposit. They got the contract signed. They're on to other contracts. Now, not every contractor is that way. Not every builder is that way. But there's a lot of them that are that way. You're tough out of luck, man. So I was talking to a friend who's a rehabber and a real estate investor and everything else, and I talked to him about this issue, about keeping your promises and everything else, and he said, hey, I know how to do that. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I get my contractors, and I sign a contract with them, and I say, give me your price, everything else. If we agree to it, I say, absolutely, we write it all out, and then I add a clause at the end. It says, if you finish on time, I will give you, I don't know what it was, 5-10% bonus. If you don't finish by 12 midnight on that day, bonus is gone. If you don't finish by 2 weeks after the deadline, you start to lose some money out of the contract. So they would lose like 10% a week if they didn't have the work done, within the contract period. He says that really motivates contractors. And he says the reason why I have to do that is because of that issue, that they sign a contract with you and you're put on the back burner. If someone else says, I'll pay you to get this done, and they have to slip that other person in between your completion, then you're going to be pushed and pushed and pushed until you're losing money every day because you're going to have this building up for rent, and I got to have the building at a certain time, and I got to have it up for rent. And I always say to them, you agreed to these terms, so I'm not going to pay you 100% because you were a month late. I'm only going to pay you 80%, and this is what you agreed to. And apparently it happened a couple of times, and that was it. They kept to the schedule after that. So you always got to, as a installer, a contractor, as a small business, whatever you promise, do. Don't do this stuff where I see salesmen do all the time. It's actually lying. They lie to the customer just to get the sale because they're so desperate for the sale. Oh yeah, we can do that and have that installed by a certain day. Or yeah, I can get you that color, or I can get you that model, knowing darn well that they can't, but just to get the signature on the contract. That's unethical, and it will ruin your business because you'll be known in the future, at least by that company, that you're not a person that can actually fulfill what you say. So you're not a person of your word. The other thing, and of course this is what I had with this guy who was my customer service rep for this house, is he's a hard person to get a hold of. He does not communicate. I cannot get a hold of him. I send text messages. I can't leave email because his mailbox is completely full, and he makes off-the-cuff commitments that I rely on, and that costs me time and money because of that. So one of the things you need to do is you need to over-communicate. I always said that, and I'm going to say this really quick. I worked for Burlington Air Express for many years before I started my business. Man, that was a long time ago, too. Good company, by the way. They're no longer around, just like Ameriquest. But to make a long story short, I worked in the IT department, big IT department. But my job was installations, to manage and get installations done, telephone systems, cabling for computers, things like that. And so one time I was sitting in my office. I was always busy doing something, organizing this or that, and I had a lot of projects going on at the exact same time. So I had to manage all these contractors. And so I would be managing all these contractors, everything else, and working hard. And my boss showed up, and she gave me a piece of paper. She goes, "Call this guy from Canada. He has some questions for you." And I said, "Absolutely." And I put it aside. An hour later, she came back, and she said, "You haven't called him yet." And I said, "I didn't know it was this urgent." So I called him, and he said, "I'm interested in this model of fax machine or this model of fax machine. Could you possibly tell me which model is better and everything else?" And it went on and on and on. Now, I didn't deal with Canada. Canada wasn't my responsibility. That was another company, in fact. Even though I had the same name as Burlington Air Express, that was totally different. I was responsible for the United States. So I didn't think much of it, and he just wanted some research. And I thought, okay, I'll get the research when I can. So make a long story short, I didn't do the research, and after I would say about 5 hours, 5 hours, I'm busy, and 5 hours later, my boss is fuming at me. "Why didn't you get this research to this guy?" I said, I just didn't have time. Well, he's complaining, and he's talking to the president of our division, Americas, and the president has called me and asked why you're not responding. Oh gosh, I'm mad at this guy now in Canada, but he taught me a lesson, and this is a lesson maybe that you need to learn as a business owner, and this is a lesson he taught me. I decided I would do revenge work. I know that's horrible, isn't it? I called him up and I said, "I'm researching, Bob, whatever your name is, up there in Canada. I'm doing that research you asked me, but I'm not done." I said, "I just want to keep you informed." He said, "Okay." So I called him back the next hour and I said, "Bob, still working on that research. Call you back in an hour, okay? Or call you back as soon as I can." He said, "Fine." Then I'd call him every hour or two. Sometimes, I think it lasted for days. I don't know, but it was like revenge. I don't know, but I had other things to do, so if I called him, it would just at least shut him up for a while. And then my boss came in and she said, "Well, I got a call from our president." She had a big smile on her face. So the senior president or VP or whatever it was called her and said, "Wow, we're really impressed with Jim." I thought I haven't done anything, but I learned a lesson that I thought I was annoying the guy and communicating to him like this, just calling him all the time. He thought it was fantastic. So I learned a lesson that day. I called overcommunication. You always communicate with your customer about your promise. So if you're promised that you're going to install something on a Monday morning and your customer is going to take the day off so you can do your installation, what you do is you keep something in writing that says it's going to happen on Monday. And when you find out the Thursday before Monday that it's not going to happen that Monday, then you call your customer and you say, "I'm sorry, I made the promise for Monday, but it's not going to happen because this happened and that happened." Of course, there's another video on excuses like that. Everyone has an excuse. But the bottom line is if you communicate with your customer, if you turn around and you say, "I promised you that the technician would be there at 10 o'clock, but, he got in an accident or he's on his way." One of the two. You over-communicate to a customer. Over-communicate. You get to the point to where the customer doesn't want to hear from you anymore, pretty much. And then you've done your job. But if the customer's calling you and saying, "Well, what's happening? You promised the technician here by 10 o'clock. Of course, I never promised a technician by 10 o'clock. It was usually early a.m. or late a.m. or early afternoon or late afternoon, something like that. But the bottom line is at the end of the day, and that technician didn't make it there and you made that promise, you're going to lose a customer. So a promise is a promise that's meant to be kept. It's about integrity. It's about honesty. It's about professionalism. Be professional, have honesty, and have integrity. And if you say something's going to happen, then make it happen. But at the same time, communicate. If this guy, let's say, even if they were showing up on Monday, I shouldn't be looking for him on Monday at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock when they're supposed to be here at 8. I should not be hearing that the guy just isn't going to show up today because I'm sitting here wondering what's going on. And I'm losing time. Time is money. And this guy is unacceptable in his approach. Unprofessional, as we already said. Again, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for coming to my channel today. And please, before you go, I know you haven't done it yet. Would you hit that like button, please? And also, would you subscribe? And if you don't agree with me or you have another idea that's better on this subject, please send me a comment. And I try to reply to as many comments as possible. But I'm going to be honest with some comments. When I get some comments that use foul language, I'm not going to publish that. Not interested in that. And I have other comments where people put in websites of other companies. Sorry, I don't put in anybody else's website. So please keep it honest and give me some ideas the way your company deals with it or what you think of this comment. Like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And you have a great day.